Well, so let's start S block. See, in organic chemistry, S block, this is very important, and you will definitely get questions related to this S block in your IITJ advanced as well as in the mains. So, S block, as you know, maximum number of electrons in S subcell or orbital 2. So, this S block basically has two groups, first and second, right? First group commonly known as alkali metals, and second group is alkaline earth metal, earth metals, right? So commonly this is known as alkali metal and this is alkaline earth metal. So I'm taking first alkali metals. See, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. So at room temperature, this francium is liquid and radioactive right? So melting point is very low. Although all the metals are soft, but softness decreases down the group, and this becomes liquid at room temperature, right? General electronic configuration is general electronic configuration is ns1. So only one electrons are in the valence shell. So this valency and oxidation number of this group elements oblique metals is fixed. What is the valency? Valency is +1, and oxidation state this is also +1, and this is fixed, no change, right? There is no change in its valency and its oxidation state, and all are metals, silvery white color metals, all are metals means they have a typical characteristic property of metal like metallic signing, low ionization energy, high electropositive, formation of ionic compounds, good reducing nature. So all the properties of metals they have, right? And silvery white color, right? And metallic character increases down the group. Means if we compare, so metallic character wait 1 minute, I think this is not visible to all of you. General electronic configuration. See, this type of problem sometimes we are facing. General electronic configuration, NS1 electronic configuration, right? NS1, and due to this one electron in the valence shell and subshell, they have a fixed valency. Valency is +1, and oxidation state is also +1, right? And it is fixed, no change. So all the elements have +1 valency and +1 oxidation state. All are metallic, and all are metallic, all are metals, right? And the metallic character, and the metallic character increases down the group, right? Metallic character increases down the group, right? And silvery white metal, white metal, right? So all are silvery white metal, and the metallic character increases down the group, right? And softness also increases down the group. All are soft metal, all are soft metal, and softness increases down the group. So because interatomic interaction is very low due to the presence of only one electron in the valence shell, so interatomic or intermetallic interaction is very low, right? This electron is basically present in the form of free electron in the metallic bonding, and other core electrons, they are not involved in the interatomic bonding. So this is the reason why these metals are what soft. If you compare with the d block elements, transition elements, so in transition elements, n-1 d orbital electrons, so many there are so many electrons in the d subshell, which causes the interatomic interaction between the metal and metal atom. So this is the reason why they are relatively hard, right? Although if subshell is complete like zinc, cadmium and mercury, if d subshell is complete, because all have d10 configuration, so they have least interatomic interaction, therefore they are soft metal and even liquid at room temperature. So the softness, all they are soft metal, and the softness increases down the group, right? Now let's talk about the density. So if you see the density, so the general trend is the density of these elements increases down the group. Density increases down the group. But there is one exception, that the density of sodium is more than the density of potassium, right? Density of sodium is more than the density of potassium, although potassium is below to the sodium. See, potassium is below to the sodium, so but density increases down the group with this exception. So this is important, all of you should note down this. And if you want the complete order of density, I am not considering francium here. So cesium has the highest density. After that we'll have rubidium, and then sodium, then potassium, and least density is lithium. Lithium has the least density. So this is the order of density. Size increases down the group, and all the properties of these elements, they are normal, because no such exception, not great exceptions are there. Few of them have some exceptional structure, exceptional properties, but not much exception. So size increases down the group, and if you see the metallic radius, basically the radii we can assess in terms of size, we can assess in terms of metallic radii. So metallic radii, highest metallic radii for cesium, then for rubidium, then potassium, then sodium, then lithium. So this is the metallic radii. But if you take ionic radii, right? Ionic radii in the same order, you will have the same order of ionic radii, Cs plus, Rb plus, K plus, Li plus. But remember one thing, this is true in the gaseous phase. If you compare the size of ionic radii, this order you will have in the gaseous phase. So ionic radii in gaseous phase. So you can argue that where these, other place where these ions exist, one more place that these ions existence of these ions is reported, that is aqueous medium. So Cs plus aqueous, Rb plus aqueous, K plus aqueous, and Na plus here also. K plus aqueous, Na plus aqueous, and Li plus aqueous. So if you consider the size in aqueous medium, so the size of this is maximum. So this is very, very important point, and all of you should note down this. See, this is due to hydration of ions. In aqueous medium, ions exist as a hydrated ion, and extent of hydration is inversely proportional to the size of ion in gaseous phase, right? So this is due to the hydration. So lithium becomes larger in size, and this is applicable on the whole periodic table, whether it is cation or anion. If you compare size, so in aqueous medium, if it is smallest in the gaseous phase, so definitely that ion is largest in the aqueous medium, and this is due to the hydration. So if some point of time it is asked, okay, which ion is more stable, so your answer is, suppose that if we compare Na plus aqueous and Na plus gaseous, so remember Na plus aqueous is much more stable than Na plus gaseous, right? So this is the stability. So we can make it a general statement that Mn plus aqueous, any ion, it is more stable than Mn plus gaseous, right? Because in aqueous medium, due to hydration, the energy of system decreases, and energy and stability inversely related, right? So this is all about the size, metallic radii. This is a different approach to determine the metallic radii. We are determining this in the metallic crystal. As you know, these metals exist in some crystalline form like FCC, BCC, and HCP structures, right? And depending on that, and from that we will determine the metallic radii, and this gaseous ionic radii in gaseous phase and ionic radii in aqueous medium. Okay, now see the other points. So if we consider the electronegativity, so in the Pauling scale, if we compare the electronegativity, so electronegativity decreases down the group, right? So if you move down in the group, electronegativity decreases. So cesium has the least, then rubidium, and then rubidium and potassium is almost same. Rubidium and potassium almost same. Then sodium and then lithium. So lithium has electronegativity 1, and this is have 0.7, this is 0.8, 0.8 and 0.9. So this is the electronegativity. So it is down the group, decreases. So the least electronegative element is here cesium, right? And all of you are knowing that with this electronegativity and the difference in electronegativity, we can predict the nature of the bond between the compounds. We have an approximate idea that if electronegativity difference, delta En, if delta En is varies between 1.7 to 1.8, 1.7 to 1.8, the bond is 50% ionic character, right? The bond has the 50% ionic. So if 50% ionic means 50% covalent. So if the electronegativity difference between two elements, combining elements, it is close to 1.7 to 1.8. So you have in that bond you have 50% ionic character and 50% covalent character. And if it exceeds 2.1, so you can say it is ionic. But as the difference increases, obviously you can say okay, the molecule is ionic. So this is the borderline, and through this you can through by comparing with this range you can identify whether the bond is covalent or ionic. Suppose that you have sodium chloride, right? Suppose that you have sodium chloride. So in the sodium chloride, electronegativity of sodium is 0.9. This is 0.9, 0.9, and electronegativity of chlorine is 3.5. So see, I'm not telling that you should remember always these things, but you should have in your mind these values, because many times in organic chemistry, in inorganic chemistry, you have this chlorine, bromine, fluorine, sodium. So at least you should, it is automatically will be memorized, right? So what is the difference here? Electronegativity difference. The electronegativity difference is here. This is 2.1. So this 2.1 is beyond, greater than this range. So we can say that sodium chloride is ionic, predominantly ionic. Clear to everyone? This is predominantly ionic. Similarly, in case of lithium fluoride, it is lithium fluoride. If you compare the electronegativity difference, so you will find that see, fluoride has electronegativity 4 and lithium has 1. So this basically the electronegativity difference between lithium and fluorine, this is 4 minus 1, this is equal to 3. So you can say that lithium fluoride is more ionic, more ionic, or have more ionic character than sodium chloride, than sodium chloride, right? So in this way, you can, predict the type of bonds present between atoms. So this is the application of, we can say, the electronegativity, right? So this is the application. Now see the ionization energy. The next property I am taking, ionization energy. So ionization energy, or we can say uh, IE1, because only one ionization energy is here. So ionization energy, this is I think lowest in the periodic table, because this group belongs to the extreme left of the periodic table. So this is the lowest in every period. So this group has the lowest ionization energy, first ionization energy in the periodic table, in the corresponding period, right? So have the lowest IE1 in the corresponding periods, period of the periodic table, right? And down the group, IE1 decreases down the group, right? So you can say that cesium has the lowest, then rubidium, then potassium, then sodium, and then lithium. So this is the order of IE1. So what is the consequence of this IE1? The consequence of this IE1 is that you can easily, remove the electrons from cesium. So all of you are knowing that this cesium from the gaseous isolated atom. So as per the definition of IE1. So cesium, if it is lowest ionization energy, so I think the lowest ionization energy, if you exclude this francium from this list, so cesium is the lowest, have the lowest ionization energy in the periodic table, because this is the bottom, extreme left bottom element. And you know, from left to right, ionization energy increases, from top to bottom it is decreases. So extreme left have the lowest ionization energy in the period, and bottom element. So you can say that this has the lowest IE1 in the periodic table. Which makes cesium a best reducing agent in the whole periodic table in gaseous state. Remember, in gaseous state, because this property, you can relate this, reducing nature, or reducing property is directly proportional to ionization energy. And since ionization energy is defined in gaseous phase, so you cannot use this concept to explain the reducing property for the molecules or species in the aqueous medium or in the molecular form, right? So reducing property is directly proportional to, inversely proportional to the ionization energy in the gaseous phase. So you can say that in the gaseous phase, cesium is the best reducing agent. So we can write here, cesium is the best reducing agent in gaseous phase, right? Okay, good. So in this way we can explain the ionization energy. Okay. Now see, if you see the melting and boiling point, so melting and boiling point, we can say the general trend is decreases down the group. So melting point melting point and boiling point both decreases down the group. So if you can see, the melting point of lithium is more than sodium, and boiling point also, right? So melting point and boiling point, sodium is more than potassium, and potassium is more than rubidium and cesium. I think there is no exception for melting point and boiling point, right? Now see, one more important property is the cohesive energy, and the measure of the cohesive energy is the enthalpy of atomization. So see, as you know, that down the group softness increases, so the cohesive energy, or we can say enthalpy of atomization, decreases down the group. This is very important property, right? Enthalpy of atomization. So the enthalpy of atomization enthalpy of atomization decreases down the group, right? And enthalpy of atomization, basically delta H atomization, you can write, is directly proportional to cohesive energy. Cohesive energy means the energy, we can say, which bonded the metal in the lattice. So this is called cohesive energy, means an energy which operates between similar kind of atoms, means between sodium. So this is called cohesive energy. So this is very important property, because this delta H atomization is the a part of standard electrode potential. So when we will determine the E naught value for any ion or for any element, this has a very important role. And with the help of this, basically we are determining the E naught. So in the value of E naught, because we can use directly E naught values to express the reducing nature of different ions or different species, and oxidizing nature in aqueous medium, not in gaseous phase. So in aqueous medium, the oxidizing and reducing nature we can explain on the basis of this E naught value. So in that E naught value, this enthalpy of atomization plays a very important role, right? Now see, next property we can see that flame color, all the this elements here in this group all have this flame characteristic color in the flame test, right? So flame coloration, if you see, So lithium imparts red, crimson red, sodium golden yellow, potassium violet, rubidium, dark violet, we can say, red violet or dark violet, red, violet, and cesium blue. So the color of these metals, basically we are taking the salt of these metals, salt plus concentrated HCl, paste, right? And with this paste we are taking at the platinum wire or nichrome wire, and we are putting on the flame. So basically nothing is happening here due to low ionization energy. Due to heat energy of the flame, the electrons are excited and de-excited. So due to basically this flame color is due to the electronic transition. This is due to the what? Electronic transition. Okay, so the color of all these metals is basically due to the electronic transition. So the color is due to the electronic transition, right? Whatever color we are observing. So in one case, lithium, in case of lithium, one very short-lived species is formed, that is lithium hydroxide, right? So in the flame, in other cases there is no any compound formation takes place. Only electron will excite and de-excite, right? So for example, the general electronic configuration is NS1. So this will go to NP, any P, N dash P, you can say. So electron will excite with any one of the P, not with D, not with F. Remember, this is very important point. If NS electron will make transition to NP only, not and N is not any restriction, means 2s electron or 3s electron go to the 5p, no problem. But it will not go 3d or 4d or any other d, or not F. So the electron, this electron moves between these NS and NP, right? So this is called excitation and this is called de-excitation. So there are some restrictions. So at some point of time I will explain why, and I think I have already explained in atomic structure, the transition of electron between subcells. There is a Laporte selection rule. There is some conservation, some restriction by the angular momentum conservation, right? So NS electron will make the transition only with NP, not with any other subcell. Okay, so all the elements will form the show the color in the flame test due to the electronic transition, and but lithium forms lithium hydroxide for and this lithium hydroxide is very short-lived species, right? So this is basically the flame coloration, right? Now the color of the compounds. So all of you are knowing that these metals easily forms M plus and electron, and this has the core of noble gas, This is the a most common oxidation state of this group metals. So core of this noble gas. So this is diamagnetic. Diamagnetic, right? So there is no unpaired electrons in this group 1 elements. So they are generally colorless. Usually colorless. But you may find some colored compounds related to the first group. For example, if you have Na2CrO4, Na2CrO4, K2CrO4, right? This is yellow, this is also yellow. So these are the K2Cr2O7, K2Cr2O7. This is deep orange, deep orange. So these compounds are colored, but don't think that color is due to this sodium or this potassium or this potassium. Don't think. The color of this compound is due to this chromate ion, and this dichromate ion, right? Okay, but you can say this is the compound of first group. So first group compounds may also sub compounds may have color, right? But don't think and even don't consider that this color is due to sodium or due to potassium. The color is due to this chromate and dichromate ion, not due to the potassium or sodium, right? Getting this point? Okay. So this is the color and magnetic behavior. So all are diamagnetic compounds due to this metal, but compound may be paramagnetic due to the other anion, right? So we have to carefully case to case analyze. We cannot say that none of the compound of first group is paramagnetic. Okay, ion is diamagnetic, right? The core of this ion. So metal ion is diamagnetic and colorless, but compounds may be colored due to the anion, not due to this cation, right? So here we can say color of compound, color of compounds. Okay, now